Yes, I think Bastion Task Force is the best detachment for the Deathwatch. It will be my default for a while unless something comes along or I get bored with very similar builds. And I mainly use the Gladius Task Force because if I played the Black Spear Task Force, then my army would end up looking very similar every time with very little variation. Because the Indomitor kill team teleporting around and using Kraken rounds to extend the range so that their melters are in half range after teleportation. Yep, okay, that's not important. The Gladius Task Force gave me a lot of variety, a lot of different ways I could play it, and the Bastion Task Force is a strong detachment and a fun puzzle to figure out. If it isn't the best, and best is player dependent, it is certainly very strong and fun. The first part of the Bastion Task Force is the Detachment Rule. It is important to have a good Detachment Rule over and above having good stratagems. Because if your stratagems are terrible, there are always other stratagems to use. Redrawing a secondary mission, heroic intervention, grenades. This is why, when it was initially launched, the Bringers of Flame detachment was so good because this one detachment rule meant you could field hordes of infantry, elite units. You don't need transports if everything within 12 inches that's shooting gets +1 strength. As long as you avoid a combat-heavy army, that was an amazing detachment, regardless of stratagems. The Bastion Task Force lets your battleline units advance and shoot, advance and charge, fall back and charge, fall back and shoot, and if you need to do an action, they can advance and still do an action, or fall back and still complete an action. Being able to advance and shoot lets you get better angles. With fall back and shoot, and maybe fall back and charge as well, if I want it, I could get rid of Bullgrins and Kroot Rampages. I don't want to be in combat with them for another round, but if I can weaken them enough, maybe I'll charge back in, and I get fight first when I charge. If you can make good use of your detachment rule, you can carry on through Lord of Deceit auras, lack of command points. And if the stratagems are bad, it doesn't matter. These stratagems are pretty good, but we'll get onto them a bit later. Being able to advance and then complete an action is incredibly useful in the last 2 turns when most of your army is having a lie down. We have the speed to get to a place and still do an action. Also very useful in the first turn. Most objective markers are about 7 inches from your deployment zone. Our infantry moves 5 or 6 inches. But in this detachment, our battle line units can advance and then complete a secondary mission that requires an action, something like Cleanse. So with such a good detachment rule, be sure to take lots of battle line units that can use the detachment rule well, rather than units that will specialize into using one stratagem. So this detachment will work with tactical squads, part of that is through the stratagems, but it will work better as a Black Templar, Deathwatch, and to a lesser extent, Space Wolf detachment. That's only a brief mention of the detachment rule, but this is a fantastic detachment rule. So I'm going to give you a 40k battle report, not a battle report. How the games went and blow by blow, that's not important. What I learned is what matters. While I have gone over this detachment, how it is in theory amazing for the Deathwatch, here's how the tactics play out in practice. I've had 2 games, one against the Tau Auxiliary Cadre and one against Imperial Guard Grizzled Veterans. Both of my games were victories. The game against the Imperial Guard was much closer, which I chalk up to them not being aliens, and also my inability to wound tanks with big hammers. Oh, I've got lethal hits, no 6s. Oh, I've got devastating wounds, no 6s. Both were victories. But when your battle line units, which are the Veteran Kill Team and the Decimus Kill Team, can reroll hit rolls against units that are not Imperium or Chaos, as in aliens, that's another reason we want battle line units. Angels Defiant was a lovely stratagem to use against the high strength of the Tau. Even their pulse rifles are strength 5. They would normally be wounding us on 3s. And then I'd use the invulnerable saves that we have on the shields, within the Deathwatch Veteran Team and the Decimus Kill Team, against the high armor penetration shots. Angels Defiant lasts for the whole phase, whereas Armor of Contempt is just against one enemy unit. So against the power of friendship that the Tau have, we can survive against multiple shots and the enemy being guided and whatnot. So I didn't need Armor of Contempt. One part of the auxiliary cadre of the Tau is the localized stealth projectors. While a Kroot or Vespid unit is within 6 and visible to a Tau unit, they cannot be selected as a target outside 18 inches. And if those Tau models are behind a ruin, and the Kroot are in the ruin, I can't shoot either unit, unless I could fire at the tower indirectly, or I can get within 18 inches of the Kroot, which I can do with advance and shoot. Not every weapon was in range, but if I could get 2 frag cannons in range, that does a lot of damage to a squad of 20 Kroot. Against the Imperial Guard, the Eye of the Primarch enhancement was incredibly valuable. With 1 turn of shooting, after advancing and shooting to get a good angle, the Decimus kill team wiped out all of the infantry characters in the enemy army. There are so many shots, and if you can assign those shots to character models, they die quickly. I took out a Commissar leading Bulgrins, the strength of the frag cannons meaning I could wound the unit, but then the damage goes onto the Commissar. The lethal hits on the Decimus kill team's bolt guns also helped against the Bulgrins. And overcharging plasma guns, plasma incinerators, so that their AP -3 let me get through the armor save and the benefit of cover that the Imperial Guard officers in the Death Corps of Krieg blocks get, and damage 2 meant that they died quicker. Imperial Guard lists all look very, very similar. Rogel Dawn Tank Commander with some other tanks, maybe another Rogel Dawn, but certainly Demon Russers. Big unit of Death Corps of Krieg, some small units of Cadians with sticky objectives. And in this detachment, a unit of Bulgrins with a Commissar. The Imperial Guard have been very predictable and very similar almost through the entire edition. And in a detachment that's all about orders, if you can get rid of the officers that give the orders, the threat level of the enemy army goes way down. So thinking about this Decimus kill team, the bit that kept coming to mind is which character is best with them. If I have a Librarian, that gives the unit a 4+ invulnerable save, and a 4+ feel no pain against enemy psychic attacks. So I don't need to take the Deathwatch Marines with the shields, and I can have heavy Thunderhammers instead. But I like the Mauls and the shields. That's a good power weapon attack. I tried having a cheaper Apothecary in one game, and then I could bring back the 3 wound Gravis Marines. But the Apothecary is only really worth it if they have the Crusade upgrade to give a 5+ fear no pain to the unit. Then they're almost as powerful as a Battle Sister Hospitaller. So the Librarian works better than an Apothecary, and their own smite with precision is good. The Eye of the Primarch gives the bearer, as well as battleline models in the unit, precision. The unit then makes a very good anvil. They are -1 to be wounded for the phase with Angel's Defiant, there's a 4+ invulnerable save, and you can put any damage to attacks on the fat lads that are ready to take it, the Gravis Marines. It'll take 2 damage to attacks to kill one of them, whereas it takes 1 damage to attack to kill any other Marine. There were some really good and constructive comments on the last video. What you would add to the army list, what you would change about the army list. There was a good comment that the Watchmaster ability, the Watchmaster's Watchmaster ability, to reduce the cost of the command points is different in name to the Space Marine Captain's Rites of Battle ability. So both of them can be used in the same battle round, unlike the Gravis Captain and the Tacticus Armored Captain, whose abilities are both called Rites of Battle. You can only use Rites of Battle once, but you can use Watchmaster and Rites of Battle in the same round. So in my previous army list, it could be altered by swapping the Captain for a Watchmaster. I would lose the once per game super combat time, and instead get fallback and advance and shoot and charge that the unit already has in this detachment. So while that will work, in the end, in the Decimus kill team, I swapped them out for first an Apothecary, and then a Librarian. And Librarian is the one I think I'll stick with. I tried the Bombast Omnivox enhancement. That lets you gain a command point if you use a stratagem on the unit, but you roll a dice, and on a 4+ or 3+, you get that command point. If you use it on a Captain or Watchmaster, you can use a stratagem that's cost is 0 command points, from like Rites of Battle, and yet you can still potentially gain the command point. I had 3 tries to gain a command point, and not one of them was gained, but despite my bad experience, I still don't think it's worth it on paper, even if the rolls were average. It's not really worth it unless the unit is going to keep using stratagems, and if so, it's because they're fighting lots. And in that case, other enhancements are better. You would want the Eye of the Primarch if they're doing shooting, you would want Blades of Valor if they're more combat focused. There is one tactic idea that came up 3 times in the comment of the previous video that doesn't work, but I think I should mention it because it keeps coming up. What if you stacked 2 characters in one unit, used Hero of the Chapter on one of them, and either Blades of Valor or Eye of the Primarch on the other one? Then your unit becomes battleline, and then it has entirely precision, or it gets extra AP in combat. But It doesn't work, because Blades of Valor and Eye of the Primarch only apply to battleline models, not battleline units. So it would still affect the two characters. Blades of Valor and Eye of the Primarch apply to the bearer and battleline models, so that would also apply to the model that is the hero of the chapter because they are a battleline model, but it wouldn't affect the unit because those models don't have the battleline keyword, even if thanks to hero of the chapter, the unit is battleline as long as that one character is in there. The whole purpose of the hero of the chapter enhancement is so that the unit can use the detachment rule and it can use the stratagems better. It's definitely the enhancement you want to take because, as I said, the detachment rule is great, and if you can apply that to another unit for 20 points, and now they can advance and shoot and fall back and shoot and advance and charge and fall back and charge, do that. Take the hero of the chapter enhancement. Right, let's go over the stratagems, which ones I used, which ones I didn't use, which ones in a play-tested environment actually work. So Angel's Defiant, -1 to be wounded, that's good resistance against a Leman Russ Exterminator, whose Exterminator autocannons are going to improve the AP of other things shooting at you. That bonus AP ability will still apply, but the autocannons themselves won't hurt us as badly. And then a big Rogel Dawn tank fires at you. You have resistance against the Rogel Dawn's high-strength weapons, the multi-melters, the melter guns, the pulverizer cannon. They were wounding the Indomitor kill team on a 4+. And because this stratagem lasts until the end of the phase, when a third unit fired at me, yes, they're getting the improved armor penetration because of the Leman Russ Exterminator, but their high-strength attacks are still -1 to the wound roll. So I prefer Angel's Defiant over Armor of Contempt, because if I'd used Armor of Contempt in that situation, I would be very easily wounded by the big Rogel Dawn, and although it would not have the extra armor penetration, because Armor of Contempt works against only one unit, the next unit that fired at me, and I can't remember what that was, probably another Leman Russ, they would have still got the improved armor penetration from the Leman Russ Exterminator. So Angel's Defiant, good stratagem, and as I said, works against the Tau. They have a lot of high-strength shots. And if it was against a more combat-focused army, that would work too. Oh, Strength 5, Strength 6 Khorne Berserkers are coming at you. Tyranids that have improved strength in melee from being in Synapse range. Angel's Defiant will work well against those armies as well. The drawback of the stratagem is that it only works on battleline units, so this is why you take the hero of the chapter, so you have at least one more battleline unit who can use stratagems like this. And it's also why your army list wants to have a lot of battleline units. We do it for the detachment rule. Having the stratagems as well is a great bonus. The stratagem Guided Disruption was good at slowing down one unit of Kroot Rampagers so they couldn't charge, and I was able to charge and destroy them with the Gravis Captain and Indomitor kill team in combat. I'd only fired the Boltstorm gauntlets and the Fragstorm launcher of the one model in range at them because they were unlikely to hurt the Hammerhead tank I was focusing on. But the shots became useful because of Guided Disruption, essentially leading to the death of the Kroot Rampagers. Shock Bombardment is another one to annoy the enemy. I didn't need it that often, but knocking the Rogel down back 1 on its hit roll was invaluable. It has a lot of shots. Now it's hitting on 5s, or it uses take aim on itself, and then it hits on 4s. I could have used it on the really big Krieg blob to counter their unit rule of +1 to hit after they've taken any casualties, but I wasn't too scared of a couple of plasma guns and some out-of-range melter guns, and las guns. Ooh. Light of Vengeance was a good one to use. I kept throwing sustained hits on the Indomitor kill team. It is considered battle line as long as the captain is alive. Or for any unit that needed lethal hits, usually not, as they already have lethal hits on most of their weapons, or they have heavy thunderhammers that rely on making a wound roll, which lethal hits would bypass. Useful stratagem for whenever you need a little bit more damage. The other two stratagems I didn't use, and with loads of battle line units, I had Heresy Undone as a maybe. I considered using it to have the Stern Guard advance and charge, as they have a lot of attacks, but there was no unit available at the time to Auspex tag the unit. And I don't think Codex Discipline is worth the 1 command point and the effort to reroll wound rolls of 1 as an extra. You need to hit the unit with something to Auspex tag them in the first place, and then you can use the stratagem on a unit. Even with battle line units, that requires 1 battle line unit to hit it, and then another battle line unit to hit it with Codex Discipline. That's a lot of effort to put in for reroll wound rolls of 1. So looking at the army list and how to revamp it, The captain in Gravis armor with the Indomitable kill team is really good performing, and I use the captain's rights of battle on command reroll to reroll the advance roll to get into better range to shoot. They have hero of the chapter. This is a battle line unit as long as the captain is alive, and considering the captain reduces damage against attacks against themselves, and is rather chunky, they're unlikely to be taken out by precision. I dropped the Storm Speeder Thunderstrike. I'd usually taken it because, yeah, it helps a bit against monsters, it has decent strength and can hurt the monsters and vehicles it's shooting at. Other Deathwatch players, like both of them, sometimes use Storm Speeder Thunderstrikes, but I can't get more than one use out of its ability before it's taken down. So I'm going to avoid peer pressure and drop that flyer, and if we have a flyer, it should surely be the Corvus Blackstar I take. But that's more expensive. I will need another unit that can get into the enemy deployment zone. Previously I flew in the Storm Speeder, so Assault Marines with jump packs works too. If only Vanguard Veterans were 5 points cheaper, I would take Vanguard Veterans as they better suit the Deathwatch theme. Dropping the Storm Speeder Thunderstrike also frees up enough points for me to add a Judiciar for the second Deathwatch Veteran squad. There's precision but in melee on that one guy, and when advancing with the rest of the force, yes including advance rolls, they can be near other units, and if they are charged, there is a brilliant heroic intervention because the unit has fight first. The only way you're really getting around that if you're going to be charging my army is to have something charge them, tie them up, knowing that you'll die, just so you can do some damage to the other nearby kill teams. Everything else I was happy with. I had enough units to complete secondary missions, I had sticky objectives for my home objective thanks to the intercessors, and I didn't really need more sticky objectives. The kill teams performed excellently, and the Deathwatch Terminators did their usual thing of shooting pretty well, failing their charge even with the reroll. That's just my Deathwatch Terminators, that's what they're like. So here's my new current Deathwatch Bastion Task Force army list as it stands at the moment, subject to future changes. There's a captain in Gravis armor with the hero of the chapter enhancement with an Indomitable kill team, a chaplain with the Blades of Valor leading 10 Deathwatch veterans, a Judiciar leading 10 Deathwatch veterans, a librarian with the Eye of the Primarch leading a 10-man Decimus kill team, a lieutenant with combi weapon to be an annoying infiltrating unit and give me reroll wound rolls of 1 against some enemies on one particular objective. Didn't help my Deathwatch Thunderhammers against a Rogal Dawn, but it should help. At some point it will do something. There's 2 5-man Decimus kill teams and an intercessor squad, also with 5 models, 5 jump pack intercessors to complete secondary missions and jump into the enemy deployment zone, 5 Deathwatch Terminators who could also deep strike into the enemy deployment zone or deep strike somewhere, be annoying, fire lots of missiles, go punch things with their fists if they pass their charge, and a squad of 10 Stern Guard veterans who can always be the unit that's affected by Oath of Moment. Or if there's nothing particularly valuable for them, and there is for the Deathwatch Terminators, the Deathwatch Terminators target will get Oath of Moment. But the Stern Guard veteran squad also gets to fully reroll wound rolls when they target the Oath of Moment target. And I pick their weapons that have devastating wounds, so they can punch above their theoretical weight. Once again, let me know what you think about this detachment and how your games playing it have gone with the Deathwatch. And you can look a bit more at the theory and see why I think tactical squads are such a brilliant unit in this detachment if you're not playing Deathwatch. My darlings and viewers, have a great day of 40k.